Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Here we are, back in better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. T-minus 3 days and counting for this crew. And we are going out with a bang. Huge night of college sports. Outstanding basketball on the floor in Chicago. And the Shrimp and Croissants Committee yielding a new Final Four that seems pretty much right. Bama, Clemson, the U, and Oklahoma. Golick, what did you think?
Oh, I mean, this is exactly the 4 we said yesterday, and I said 5 and 6, who I thought would be Wisconsin and Auburn. Not like I would take credit for that. I think everybody in the world thought that was going to happen as well. I think the biggest question was Wisconsin going to jump inside that Final Four just yet? And, at this point, I think the committee, they have Miami in there with Clemson. They have to play one another. Alabama at 1, Auburn at the 6th. They have to play one another. And I really do think the more we go through this, if Wisconsin takes care of business and is 13-0 in the Big Ten champ, I do think they're going to be in.
And the bottom line is there are 3 conferences ahead of them, not 4.
Right.
There are 3 conferences, not 4, ahead of Wisconsin. So it probably does bode well for them, but we'll have to wait and see. And before we get into any of this, even before we dive into off the top, there is one thing that I think we have to take care of here this morning. So of the variety of wagers that Golick lost on this weekend's Notre Dame-Miami game, here comes the first.
This is I already sent the 6 ribeye steaks to Jim Kelly.
Okay, so I stand corrected. This is the second.
Those have been sent right away, and another bet was obviously that I have with Stu Gotts that we're trying to figure out that whole thing.
There's a massage involved.
Yeah, we're trying to figure that one out. And then Jeff Eagles, again, was my teammate in Philly. He went to the U. His son is a freshman punter, punts for the U, does a great job. And he was going to get me $100 worth of donuts had Notre Dame won. And if the U won, which they did by a wide margin, I had to wear the turnover chain. So he sent me the turnover chain and put a big Miami helmet on it. And it looks like, are we done with that song yet? And it looks like the person who delivered this didn't like the U either. I think they kicked it to my door.
Yeah, there's a hole, but it's a hole in the side here. We got the little, whatever those things are called, the styrofoam beans falling out of it.
Yeah, the little peanuts.
Peanuts, thank you.
Yeah. So
here we go. Golick is opening it.
Oh, man, all these peanuts.
We've got a lot of peanuts in there.
Are you kidding me? He's got some stupid note.
Let's read the note.
Please handle with care.
I'll read the note.
It's Fiegels. You just don't read it verbatim.
I will
don't
read it
everything
carefully.
he puts on the teleprompter, okay?
I gotcha. Here we go.
I never know with him.
Hey, guys, hope all is well. Please handle with care. Not the best quality chain. Ha. Can you return to? Here's the address. Hopefully by the end of the season it will be falling apart. Go Canes. And so he's excited to send that to you.
He said he wants it back?
He says he wants it back.
You're not getting it back, Fiegels.
There's an address here in New Jersey.
I don't care. He's not getting it back.
Okay, here we go.
I know what the address is.
Here comes the chain. Golick is now going to don the turnover chain as payment for the crushing defeat of the Irish. Now you got to do this. You got to do. Come on, give me you.
I'm not doing that.
Give me you. Come on, throw it up.
Nope.
Throw it up. Come on. Yes, that's what we want. That's the photo that we want. There's the money shot right there. Get that up. Get that up.
I did it already.
All right, that is good. Now you got to leave it on now.
I know. I got to leave it on.
You'll leave that on for the.
Have it on the right way. A-Rod had it on backwards.
Okay, I think that looks very good.
This is the right way.
I think it's a high quality chain. I'm not sure what Fiegels is talking about.
I'm sure we're going to have this color on my neck as it wears off. I'm sure it's really high quality. I'm sure it's real high quality chain.
It should be dangling, I feel, a tad lower on you.
I don't know. It's
bordering on a choker.
It's a snug fit over the head. I'm going to say that as well. And I can't believe he thinks he's getting it back. You ain't getting it back, Jeff. Sorry to say, this will be melted down after the show, all right, after I pay up this bet.
You know what? We have a feature today called Player with Style, and I was going to give it to Grayson Allen because he went crazy last night.
Did.
But I think in honor of you wearing the turnover chain for this morning, we're going to say Golick is the Player with Style, brought to you by J.C. Penney. Guys, now through Sunday, get 60% off select styles of men's outerwear, hats, and gloves starting at just $6.99. Hurry in, J.C. Penney. Golick, you are the Player with Style.
I was hoping to never see this change Saturday night. I didn't want to see it come out, but I have to admit, as a fan, of sports, I kind of like what that is doing. I mean, they are all digging it. They are all into it. The production they have on it on the sideline when somebody comes off and takes the helmet off and the coach puts it on and everybody congratulates. He goes over by the crowd. It's a cool thing, and it works for them. So, congrats to them, and they make that jump all the way to 3. There were some that thought they were going to jump to number 2, but it doesn't matter at all. That it's already set. It's Clemson and Miami. In the ACC championship game, neither one just can stub their toe on their way. Miami has Pitt and Virginia and Pitt, whatever order it is, before they get to the ACC title game. So that's gonna match up well, and then we'll get down to that discussion. If Miami is undefeated and they lose a close game, we'll have to see where everybody else is. Would they still have a chance to get in, or who from the outside now will have a chance to get back in? Because from the first, we always talk about the first rankings that come out. What was it, Oklahoma that first year that was 16 in the first rankings and ended up in the Final Four?
I think that was Ohio State.
It was Ohio State. You're absolutely right. It was Ohio State. So right now, if Miami ends up in it and nobody else higher than them, in the first rankings, Miami was 10, and now they're number 3, so it would be a 10 into the top 4 if they hold there. Let's see if somebody else, jumps in. I don't know who past them from that first ranking would do that, but, I'm sorry. It could be, it could be Auburn. Auburn was 14. In the initial rankings, and they're now 6, and deservedly so. I think they're 6 with a chance to really control everything.
And in just a couple of minutes, you will hear Reese Davis bring up a team that is currently outside the top 10 that should not be discounted as still having a chance to get into this mix. We'll get to that after we do Off the Top. Let's start on the court in Chicago. We mentioned it was Grayson Allen who put on a show last night. He was out of his mind as number 1 Duke beat number 2 Michigan State.
Yeah, he had 37 points, 5th most of any player scored in of the 41 matchups between 1 and 2. Buddy Hield in a triple overtime game back in 2015 against Kansas, I believe it was, scored 46. That's a career high for Allen in this one. On the other side of the court, Miles Bridges he had all 15 of his shot attempts were contested in this one. He had, he had 19 points in this game. Marvin Bagley Jr., he was a guy to watch, a 6'11 freshman who was thought to maybe be going to a prep school but didn't, end up going to Duke, could be the top pick in the draft. He ended up only playing 10 minutes. He got poked in the eye in a rebound by his own player and didn't come back in the game. At that point, he had 4 points and 6 rebounds in that game. So,
I think he had 25 in their opener. I think in their first game he had 25. He's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft.
Number 1 pick in the draft. Good game, 4-point game at halftime, 88-81. This was a close one, a competitive one going to the end with Duke getting the win.
Next, meanwhile, we had, with the college football stuff sandwiched in between, we had number 4, Kansas, knocking off number 7, Kentucky, in another good game.
Yeah, this is over the last 3 regular seasons, Kansas is 2-0 against Kentucky away from home. All other teams are 2-40 against Kentucky away from home in that span. Kentucky only scored 61 points in this game. That's the fewest they scored in the last 3 seasons. So Kansas gets the better of them in this one. Another close game, low-scoring game, as we mentioned. It was a 1-point game at halftime. 65-61 your final in this, with Kansas getting the win. But they were both really good games to start off with. You always, fear early in the season. And the interesting thing here, especially in that first one, we talked about, because we had Tom Izzo on. We're going to have Coach K on today, but Izzo has 4 sophomores and a freshman starting. Duke has 1 senior, Grayson Allen, who had the 37, and 4 freshmen starting in that game. So a whole lot of youth out of those 10 players.
That's where the sport is today. Break up the Celtics. They win again with Kyrie Irving wearing a mask. They knock off the Nets. They've won 13 straight.
Yeah, now the best in NBA history immediately following an 0-2 start or worse. Kyrie, he did have that mask on. When he and Horford are out on the floor together, the Celtics are over plus 16 per 100 possessions, which would rank first in the NBA, which is not shocking. They're on a 13-game winning streak. Their defense they play is fantastic right now, and they're scoring some points as well. So let's see where this thing goes. We all predicted doom and gloom, at least for the year. It's like, okay, their growth is halted by a year because Gordon Hayward going down in that opening night. But, man, listen, the streak isn't going to last forever. Let's see where they level out. But, boy, they're playing some great ball right now.
I was disappointed in the mask. Do you remember the Phantom of the Opera mask that he wore at the Garden years ago? And he scored 40 points that night. And really what was an early signature performance for Kyrie before LeBron came back to Cleveland. So last night he went with the clear mask, which he said enables him to see the floor better.
Which is probably a better thing than trying to entertain.
Cool looking.
Well, listen, is he there to entertain us or see the floor and play well?
Yes.
Okay.
Off the top.
Managers of the year, the Twins, Paul Molitor, and the Diamondbacks, Torey Lovullo.
Yeah, I mean, the Twins, again, they came back. They had the largest increase in wins from last season to this season. They were plus 26. First team in baseball history to make the playoffs a year after losing 100 games. And Lovullo, the third manager in Diamondback history to win Manager of the Year. Kirk Gibson won in 2011, Bob Melvin in 2007. They had by far the biggest win increase of the NL, going plus 24. So your two managers of the year, you get the Cy Youngs tonight, and then you get the MVPs on Thursday.
And then that would bring us to the college football playoff, which we'll get to in a minute. Mike, and we'll talk all about the college football rankings, which are brought to you by the 2018 Ford F-150. It doesn't just raise the bar, it is the bar. But, as we mentioned, Paul Molitor, and it's been a week filled here for us with, just reminiscing about all these years that we've done the show together. When I say Paul Molitor, and it's just funny because my memory is one thing and yours is another. What immediately jumps to mind when I say Paul Molitor?
I don't know. What should I be thinking?
The celebrity softball game.
He robbed me of a hit.
Robbed
me of a hit. That's exactly right. Yeah.
When we managed the celebrity softball game, we did it 2 years in a row. We did it in New York, and then we did it in St. Louis.
Right.
We did it in Yankee Stadium in the last season of the old Yankee Stadium. And that was the game where I somewhat infamously, intentionally walked Wade Boggs late in the game. But earlier in the game,
still not over.
They let us bat. We were managers, but we each batted.
We were player managers.
We were player managers. We didn't field.
Much like if Carlos Beltran gets a job somewhere, he may be.
Yeah, he may pinch hit.
Yes, exactly.
Every now and again. But we hit.
Yes.
We both batted. And I said all I wanted to do, I didn't care if I got on base or not. I just wanted to hit the ball to a former player.
Right.
And unfortunately, I grounded out to Billy Crystal, and I popped out to a Backstreet Boy.
Yeah, you did.
Which was a disappointment to me.
It was. And I popped out.
You popped up.
Well, first I popped up to the catcher, Gary Carter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a ball player, though. I hit it, too.
But you hit it like 4 feet up in the air, and he caught it.
Horrific.
But then Golick smashed one.
I smoked a shot in between third and shortstop. And friggin' Paul Molitor thinks all of a sudden he flashes back to his days on the field.
Did.
He
Paul
just scabbed
Molitor
it.
Robbed Golick. He made a play. There's got to be video of this somewhere.
Dude, let it go, man. What are you doing?
It was like Brooks Robinson in the World Series.
It really was.
He was. I mean, he made a diving stab to his backhand side.
He did.
And threw Golick out by about, 56 steps.
Because I had already decided, I thought it was going in the hole there, that I was legging out too.
Yeah.
I mean, I was already decided I was going for the double.
And so that is my never-ending recollection of Paul Molitor. And so this made me smile when I thought of that. Golick was so mad. That was the game where you told Rich Gossage to hit me. Remember that? I came up to bat one time and you had Goose Gossage act like he was going to throw it at my head.
Was that the game that Chris Rock, was it that one or the other one that struck out like 3 times and he walked to the next bat?
No, I took the bat from him. I had to take him out of the game. I pinch hit Chingy for him. And I took the bat from Chris Rock and I said, Chris, I need the bat. And he goes, a lot of hits left in it. Because he had struck out 3 times.
I mean, it struck out swinging. And the worst softball swing you may have ever seen in your life and never came close to hitting the ball.
Not great. And
no,
he was not a funny man.
Very, very funny.
Not a great softball player. And again, that game ended with me intentionally walking Wade Boggs to pitch to Kenny Mayne.
It was just unbelievable.
It wasn't me pitching, by the way. It was James Denton, the star of
who had to take the wrath of that because he had to stand on the mound and do it.
We got booed together.
No,
he was
you
from
got
that. What was that
right.
show? Desperate Housewives.
Was that the
he
one?
was. He was. No, not Desperate Housewives. No. What was the show? Wisteria Lane. What was the name of that show? Was it Desperate Housewives? Yeah, I had it right. It was Desperate Housewives. Yeah. So he was the good-looking guy. I went out to him and said, "Jim, we're putting this man on."
It's unbelievable.
And he didn't even know what I meant. I said, "Why would we pitch to Wade Boggs in a 1-run game?" With Kenny Mayne coming
Why
up.
would you do that in a celebrity softball game that everybody there wants to see this guy hit it over the fence?
Well, why are we keeping score?
Whatever.
I mean, it struck me as though it was the right thing to do.
Whatever.
Anyway, those are our own silly reminiscences. We are Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests, and there'll be plenty of them on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and many of them will be talking about the college football playoff ranking. So, again, it is a minor quibble that I would have with the committee, but I would have put Miami ahead of Clemson based on being unbeaten and based upon a shellacking of what was the number 3 team in the country last week in Notre Dame by their own rankings. They can't. It feels like they're doing to Notre Dame what everyone did to Notre Dame's opponents, famously that year. Every time, I remember when Golick's kids were on the Notre Dame team, every week they'd beat someone, and then the narrative would be, well, that team wasn't any good in the first place. The committee can't say Notre Dame wasn't any good in the first place. They had them ranked number 3 last week, and Miami took their soul.
They did.
So, to me, unbeaten with that win and another pretty good win against Virginia Tech the week before.
But Clemson
was deserving of number 2.
Clemson's had more wins against top teams, and I think the committee was taking all that, not just last week into play.
Clemson's best win is Auburn, right?
But Clemson has, I think, 3 wins against top 25, 6 against the top 40. Or they're one of the
Miami
highest.
Has 2 wins against the top 25, and they don't have a loss to Syracuse. Yeah. Again, we're talking about nothing.
We're quibbling.
Here.
It means nothing. It does not matter one bit.
That's why I opened by saying they got it mostly right. They have the right 4 teams. So long as you get the right 4 teams, I don't really care what order you put them in. Right. And since Clemson and Miami are going to play each other anyway, it really is the ultimate in completely irrelevant. I do want to play, because we have a little bit of limited time here for the moment. I want to play you this, because we're talking about, I think some might look at this thing and say the list of schools that could get in is 7 deep. Unless you want to include Ohio State. When you get to 8, Notre Dame, I think we both agree, has no chance.
I think they're down, yes.
Now, if we skip down to Ohio State, Ohio State as a Big Ten champ, which they'd have to be, obviously, to make this relevant, and a break or 2 along the way, maybe gets in. Last night, Reese Davis said, if we're going to go that far, there's another team we should not be leaving out.
If we're going to consider Ohio State, and I think we should if we get down to that, and if they are Big Ten champions, I don't think we should be so quick to dismiss Southern California or maybe even Washington State if one of those 2 teams were to wind up as Pac-12 champions. I'm not saying they should be in ahead, but I think this idea that they're out, we shouldn't even consider them, they shouldn't be in the mix, is a little bit premature, because Southern California's resume is very similar to Ohio State's right now.
For what it's worth, USC's strength of record is 9 in the country, and Ohio State's is 15.
Right.
So I guess the point he'd be making, and I'd ask it to you, is if we're including Ohio State in this conversation, if we're saying a 2-loss Ohio State Big Ten champ would deserve to be considered for this, why would we be dismissing USC?
I think what's going to hurt USC is the fact that they're going to play, a 2-loss team. At least a 2-loss team, right, in the Pac-12 championship?
Yeah, there are no teams that don't have 2
Ohio
losses
State
in that
is
conference.
most likely going to play an undefeated Wisconsin team ranked in the top 5.
Yes, they're definitely going to play Wisconsin.
Yeah. It's just a matter of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin has to play Michigan this week.
Which jumped into the rankings
they
at 24.
They could certainly lose that game.
Right.
That's not by no means an unlosable
I agree,
game.
and it's a ranked team now. So I think that's the difference, is the strength of which that Pac-12 championship is going to be. There are 5, I believe. Are they second? No, they're not second. They're third as far as teams that are in. How many teams they have in the top 25? It is Big Ten is first with 6, and then it's the SEC with 5. The Pac-12 was 4, but the first ranking shows up at number 11. So I think that's why people are kind of pushing them to the side a little bit, that the strength of their Pac-12 championship game is not going to be very strong compared to the others. So I think that's why they're really kind of on the outside looking in.
Could be. I mean, their losses are Washington State, who is number 14, and Notre Dame, who's number 8.
Well,
so
how are you talking about them getting
losses.
in? I mean, what kind of losses are you talking about for them to be able to get in? There has to be some mayhem ahead of them for that to happen.
Let's say Wisconsin does lose a game. Let's say Wisconsin loses to Michigan and then beats Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Does a 1-loss Wisconsin, whose best win at that point of the season would be Ohio State as a Big Ten champ, get in ahead of a 2-loss USC?
Absolutely.
Really?
I would, yes.
Okay. I mean, all we've talked about to this point, Wisconsin, the big thing Wisconsin has going for them is the 0.
Right.
Once they lose the 0.
That hurts them, no doubt about it.
There's only one team that is in the rankings this week that Wisconsin has beaten, and that's Northwestern. Mm-hmm. Iowa was ranked last week, but they got shellacked this past week by Wisconsin themselves and fell out of the top 25. So they only right now have 1 win against a team that is currently ranked, and that's Northwestern. Now they play Michigan this week, who is currently ranked number 24. Right. If they beat them, Michigan will fall out of the ranking also.
I mean, USC only has 1 win over, if I'm looking at this, over a ranked team. Arizona was ranked when they played them in Stanford when they won. They lost to a ranked Washington State. They lost to a ranked Notre Dame. So it's not like they're singing like, we've got a ton of wins over top teams either.
No, I know that. But
you're asking me, I think no.
You think it ends with Ohio State?
I think if you want to include USC, I won't sit there and say it never can happen, but I think it is a longest of shots for a Pac-12 team to get in.
So if we're looking at 4 teams in the end, the teams that we at this moment believe have any conceivable chance are Alabama, Clemson, Miami, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Auburn, Georgia, Ohio State, and that's it?
It's probably it. And next I would say USC, but a distant USC. A distant USC. But I'm with you. I can't completely take them out. Let's see how everything else falls, but they would be a distant to me.
I think you're right. I mean, that would be very tough. I mean, I was listening to Reese, and Reese knows 100 times more about this than I do. But as I look through all of it, it is, again, they don't have great wins to hang their hats on either. Wisconsin's got a chance. If Wisconsin beats Michigan this week, then in my opinion, they will. They may not move up into the top 4, but they so solidify their place at 5 that they're just sitting there waiting for someone to drop, and Clemson and Miami, one of those 2 teams has to lose.
Hey, everyone, Mike Golick here. Support for the Mike and Mike podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
You play to win the game.
All right, it is our pleasure to welcome Herman Edwards into our studio to bring us wit, wisdom, and insight. Good morning, Herman.
Good morning, man. I am quite honored to be here today, knowing that you guys, this is the last week, I guess.
Last week? Yes, it is.
Out of what I would call the best, obviously, sports talk show in the last decade that I've been around here. So it's been an honor for me to be here with you guys. Obviously, this last week is it sad? It's not sad. It's just maturity, I would say. You guys. Well, you guys have done a lot. I mean, really, you don't know. You sit on this perch and you talk about sports in a way that makes a lot of people come together. From different walks of life, and they listen to you guys. And you guys had a lot of great guests on here the times I've been here, and when I'm on California listening, I get up early, as you know, and work out. I've always got you guys on. You guys are a part of the fabric of America, of people that listen to sports on radio, and you guys have done a fabulous job, man. I can't tell you enough how much I've appreciated coming on you guys' show.
We appreciate you being here because you have become one of the must-listen and must-see guests for this show, and as you sit here as I'm wearing a turnover.
I say to you, Well, I tell you what, it's fun when those guys are back in the mix. I can remember being at Tampa, and we had a bunch of those guys. We had Sapp and those guys on our team, and, it's back – in 2000, not 2000, 89, 90, 91, when they were rolling, man. It was a lot of fun. They were
rolling in a different way.
Yeah, they were rolling now, boy.
You looked at that and you were like, and the talent that they turned out to the NFL. And I know on Dan's show, Dan Levitar went to the U. They were talking about, can it ever go back to that? I don't think in this day and age it can ever go back to what that was, where how kind of, is out of control the wrong word to use for that group, but they were great.
But
great, and turned out so many great players to the NFL. But the way they did it, I don't know if we'll see that again.
Right, and it was right on the cusp of, wow, what is this?
Yeah,
college football is like, what is this? And when they came in there the one time, I remember that Vinny was with that group. They came in there with the fatigues on.
Look
at these guys. They were brash.
They were.
Really? And I tell you what, now they were a fun watch.
Let me tell you, they talked the talk, and boy, did they walk the
a lot of great players.
The stomp.
A lot of great players.
They were something.
They were renegades, and they were the most dominant college football program of their time. We have a program that has been equivalently dominant now, right? But you couldn't do it in a more different way,
yes.
Right? I mean, Alabama, it couldn't be more buttoned up as comparatively speaking, and that maybe is more in sort of keeping with the era that we live in sports right now. One way or another, Herman, I share Golik's thanks for your kind words, and I can't tell you how much you have meant to us and to me. And so that, and we'll have more time to talk about that on and off the air. But I do want to gain your wisdom this morning on something that has nothing to do with football. So these three kids from UCLA flew back to the States yesterday. Very, very fortunate.
Yes.
That the President of the United States intervened on their behalf and discussed their situation, this idiocy of shoplifting in China, while representing a university and representing, I guess, in a way you could say, the United States on this trip to China. And they returned very fortunate to have come back without much more significant consequences.
I believe all the charges
than
were dropped against them.
They were met satisfactorily, whatever that exactly means.
Nothing more is going to happen.
Nothing more is happening to them in China.
In China.
And exactly through what diplomatic channels that was reached. But, UCLA and everyone involved, they thanked the State Department, and they thanked the President, and they thanked the White House. And so they are, fortunate beyond belief that this did not go much, much, much worse, which it certainly could have. And so the question then now becomes about consequences.
Yes.
They come home. They're safe and sound. And, Mike, as you said yesterday, it's easy to say, leave them over there to learn a lesson. When it's your kid, you want to get them the heck out of China.
You want to get them on a plane, you want to get them home, and then you'll teach them a lesson.
And so now what is the lesson? There will be a press conference today where they and the coach and others from UCLA will meet with the media to tell their side of the story. And the question is, what is an appropriate reaction now by the school and any other authority that has jurisdiction?
Quite honestly, one of the first people I thought of is you, Herm. And according to the Associated Press, a person with knowledge of the Pac-12's decision said any discipline involving the trio would be up to UCLA. This person spoke obviously on a condition of anonymity because the conference doesn't plan any sanctions. And that's what I thought of, because when you handled some situations, when you were a coach, you basically even called the league and said, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm going to take care of this here. So, and that's what I said yesterday. I said, this is UCLA's issue to take care of.
Yes.
And to me, I'm not kicking them off the team. They're not getting expelled from school. They're going to miss some games, no doubt about that, and they're gonna run some steps. They're gonna do some of that early morning running. They're young, they have energy. They can do all that stuff. They're gonna behind the scenes. They're gonna feel that physical part of it, but they're also gonna miss some games as well. So I'm gonna suspend them for, I don't know, a handful more. I'm not sure of the number of games, but that's where I'm going with it. A suspension, not kicked off the team, not an expulsion, a suspension and some good hard running and physical labor in the morning.
Yeah, they're going to continue to practice and do what they do. They're not going to play, obviously. These are teachable moments. You use these moments as teachable things. I would have them actually go into the community and do some community outreach to young kids to say, hey, look, this is what, this is what we were involved in, and explain their story and let them talk about, hey, you know what, I messed up. And I think they will be very forthright today in the press conference. Obviously, there'll be some things they all say, but at the end, I think it's a teachable moment. They're young guys. You don't use that as an excuse. But when you steal, man, that bothers me.
So what do you do? Are they missing games? You kicking them off?
They're missing games.
But you're not.
I'm not going to kick them off. I'm not kicking them off because it's teachable moments. They're first-time offenders as far as we know.
Right.
And then from there, they're going to miss some time. How many games? They're going to miss some time. It's not going to be one or two.
Yeah, that's going to be a while. Tough time putting my finger on, Greeny, is how many games do you miss here? I agree with you. It's not one or two.
No.
It's got to make an impact. You're still going to be on the team, but you're going to practice. You're going to miss games. You're going to practice with everybody, work as hard as everybody, work more because I'm going to work you harder and other stuff, and then you're going to sit and watch.
You want to make sure that their discipline, because they're being disciplined, affects the team. Because you want the team, the players that play with these guys, to be disappointed in them and say, hey, look, what you guys have done, even though you guys are getting disciplined, it's affecting us too now. It's affecting us during the game because some of you guys are supposed to come in there and help us. You got certain minutes you're going to play. Well, you don't get those minutes anymore. So now it's affecting our ability to win. That's what teams do. You keep it in-house where it affects everyone, even though I wasn't involved in it. But because you did this, it's going to affect us now when we play basketball.
They have 11 games before they start their conference schedule.
Oh, they got.
Would you say 11 games seems like too much, too little, the right amount? A season is roughly 30 games.
Yeah,
roughly a third of a season.
I would.
The least important third.
I would be okay.
It would be the least important third, but they are freshmen who are trying to develop. They're all three were freshmen. I'm having a tough time. Do you just say 10 games? I mean, did you do half the season?
You know what? I don't think you put a number on it. I think you just watch. I just watch and see. You just watch it all unfold. Just let it unfold.
Maybe you do that. I mean,
there's a number in your mind, but maybe I think you just let it go.
Could that be even worse to say you're suspended indefinitely?
That's right.
I'm going to keep working your behind off. You're going to keep practicing. You're going to keep watching, and I'll let you know.
I wouldn't put a number on it.
That would be an interesting way to go about it as well.
You just go.
Isn't that what Coach K? Remember, he was missing some time with his back, and Grayson Allen.
Yes.
Isn't that what they did with him? And then if it's only a game or two, then you're like, oh, was that really a punishment or not? But it was indefinite, right?
Correct.
So maybe that's something you do here is we're not putting a number on it. We'll let them know when they can put that uniform on and represent UCLA in a regular season game.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
That's what I would do.
When you do that, though, what you're doing is you're opening yourself up to immediate reaction of if they're back for the Kentucky game.
Right.
Well, you didn't really do whatever you said you were going to do.
Right.
And I did read one interesting column that throws one kind of monkey wrench into the entire discussion. Let me pause on that thought. Where Mike and Herman Edwards is here with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. We'll pause on that. There's one person who may not have any say in this directly, but indirectly might be very significant in all of this. So you can probably guess who that is.
Yeah.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Mike and Mike, this is Waddle and Sylvie back in Chicago at ESPN 1000. We want to congratulate you on a fantastic 17-year career together. Greeny, you and I go way back, going back to the Bears when you were just a snot-nosed reporter covering our Chicago Bears.
And as an original hire of ESPN 1000 back in 1998, I go way back with Golick. Golick, I remember when you were fat.
Wow, that's rough. Snot-nosed, Greeny, and Fat Gold. No. In all seriousness, guys, it has been a true honor to share the ESPN 1000 airwaves with you guys for better than a decade. You guys are the gold standard for our industry. It's been a great run, and we appreciate the friendship that we've had with the both of you over the course of the last 10-plus years.
Thanks for sharing the airwaves, whether it was here in Chicago or in the national scene. We appreciate everything you did for our station on ESPN 1000.
That's nice. Good guys. We love going there. I know that's where you started this whole thing in Chicago. We've had Waddle on, obviously, a bunch of times when he was here. We've been on their show a bunch of times as well. And by the way,
yesterday with them.
Yeah, and by the way, they will be here. There's this after our last show Friday. There's a week, and then that's when I start with Trey Wingo and my son Mike on November 27th. Again, same slot here, same time, same stations, TV and radio. But Waddle and Sylvie are going to be doing next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So they will be doing that show. I'm not sure what they're going to call it.
They told me they're coming here.
They're coming here.
I said, are you guys doing it from Chicago?
So what are they going to say? When the microphone goes on, what? It's not Mike and Mike anymore. Golick and Wingo will not have started. Hey, take advantage, guys. Waddle and Sylvie.
Yeah, listen. Raise your hand if that isn't your problem.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Mike and Mike are presented by Progressive Insurance.
You can save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now that's Progressive.
Okay, so just quickly, and again, Herman Edwards in our studio here, and with these three kids from UCLA, and I read an interesting column by Nancy Armour that suggested that waiting in the wings in all of this, of course, is not just LeVar Ball, but maybe more significantly LaMelo Ball.
Yes.
So there were three Ball brothers, the oldest of whom, Lonzo, is on the Lakers, of course. LiAngelo, who is the one who got involved in this incident in China. who is, according to everyone who pays attention to this, and this is not my scouting analysis, by far the least talented
the lowest
of the
rated
three.
of them. Yeah, he is, and that it's just by rating system that people use.
He from everything I've heard, is a 4-year college player.
Right.
He's not a guy who's going to be one and done. LaMelo is one of the 2 or 3 best high school players in the country. Now he's not even in high school now.
No, he's
His
not.
father pulled him out of high school and he's homeschooling him. I don't know. He is committed to UCLA. Whether he's going to wind up at UCLA or not, at this point, feels like it's anybody's guess. But she did write an interesting column about how does the coach proceed here with caution so as not to, whatever it is he does with LiAngelo, not to upset LeVar
to ruin it to get
enough
LaMelo
that
there.
he doesn't send LaMelo there. And that to me would be
no. You shouldn't do it.
You shouldn't
No.
do that. But can we say, that in the past you haven't massaged, to make sure this?
There's a lot of massaging going on.
And you're talking about your integrity,
right?
And what do you stand for?
Have you paid attention to what's going on in college basketball lately?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I watch college athletics. Yeah, and that's a little bit of the problem. And that's a little bit of the problem. Well, you're supposed to be builder of men. Well, then build them. But you got to be the right guy sending the message too. You got to talk the talk and you got to walk it now. You can't all of a sudden, look, and I understand, athletes make you a better coach. Great athletes give you the opportunity to win. But the ultimate game is team. It's a team sport, and you can't sacrifice your integrity or the integrity of your university for things that that are not above the table. You can't do that.
Yeah,
we're trying to teach these guys stuff, and then we turn around and do other stuff, backdooring stuff. I mean, what is that? What message that send the kids? It's like, oh, well, the coach can do it. We can do that. It's okay.
And listen, I have no idea about LaMelo. Is he this one and done, can't miss?
I think he is.
He's not this 6'11", Bagley
I don't
kid.
think he's as good as Lonzo, but I think he's better than LiAngelo.
I don't know that, so I don't. So is that worth doing it? I have no idea. But obviously, to Coach's point, he's exactly correct. Are you going to give up your integrity for one guy and to try and massage that situation? I don't know.
Tell me.
And again, for those, we were doing it in where everybody wasn't with us. Back in 2010, there were 3 incoming football player freshmen at UCLA. Rick Neuheisel was a coach. In summer workouts, they were all 18, all incoming freshmen, stole a backpack of a young lady on campus, got arrested. Rick Neuheisel suspended them for the season and said if they do everything right, they can come back in January. But they were done for the year. I think all of them ended up at another school. But that was the punishment then, as we're all trying to figure out what we think the punishment may be now.
Yeah, and you would hope, I would hope this. I would hope that they would understand that the UCLA brand is bigger than any player.
Right.
Now, great players obviously highlight your brand more. In the fact when you're playing well, when you're winning, they give you more exposure. But the UCLA brand has been around here for a long time. We can go back to Lou Alcindor. Mm-hmm. We can go. You can just keep going back. All right. So we know who UCLA is, and obviously when they're relevant, they're playing well and they got good players. I understand that, but the brand's never changed. It's UCLA. Okay. Well, then if you get great players, it highlights the brand. But you can't. You can't all of a sudden damage the brand by going, oh, we're going to go over and do. No, you can't do that. That's not that. No, don't.
Well, so then the question is, what is the appropriate response? And I think I'm a little surprised. My personal view on this, I feel like you guys, both of you, are a little bit less, are a little more lenient on this than I think I am. You've created, we sent these kids to China representing their school and the United States. They created an international incident that required the intervention of the President of the United States.
Yes.
This strikes me as a pretty significant thing, and we're talking about, well, they're going to run some steps and miss a handful of games.
Well, let me ask you this. Stealing.
Right.
Then where you steal at? It's theft.
But
we can say,
but actually the consequences for it are very different normally there than they would be here.
Yeah, but
if the president didn't get involved and this was not the case that it was, these guys could have been in jail 10 years in China.
Well, then, yeah.
It's a different crime there than it is here.
Let me ask you
but it's still stealing.
Yeah, let me ask you this. When the NFL finally went to a domestic violence policy, say it was the 6 games, were everybody not a little more happy at that? At 6 games for domestic violence. So we're a little more happy that they did that. Now, if they'd have stayed at 6, you know what I mean, though? When they put it in place and said 6 games, we were like, okay, at least you're putting a stamp on that. This is stealing a pair of sunglasses. You want to start comparing things? I think 6 games out of 16 as opposed to 10 out of 30 for theft of glasses and domestic violence, if you want to start looking at things?
I think a lot has to do, to the coach, and and the players, you know your players. You know who they are. I mean, that has a lot to do with it, too.
I need to hold you here. Can you hold on 1 minute? We'll carry this over to the top. Then we'll get John Gruden in, and then we'll get Kirk Herbstreit in. Mike Krzyzewski today, Joe Girardi, Paul Feinbaum, and a whole lot more. We're jam-packed on a Wednesday, Mike and Mike.